The government launches Tourism Strategy 2.0. New online arrangement for public dental services. Former U.S. President and Nobel Peace Prize winner Jimmy Carter dies. Hello, I'm Melissa Hekalea, and you're watching TVB News. The government launched its development blueprint for Hong Kong's tourism industry 2.0 today. The blueprint proposes 4 major strategies and 133 measures to boost tourism in the city. Timothy Lee tells us more.
The 2.0 version of Hong Kong's tourism development blueprints was announced more than 7 years after the release of its predecessor in October 2017. In hopes of boosting the city's status as an international tourism hub, 4 strategies were proposed today. They include the nurturing and development of tourism products, developing a diversified portfolio of visitor-sourced markets for the city, facilitating intelligent and convenient travel to Hong Kong, and ensuring quality services for visitors. Authorities also proposed 46 measures to develop the tourism industry surrounding the city's outlying islands, and will work with private organizations to develop relevant facilities. To further promote tourism focusing on Hong Kong's unique culture, the government will develop more horse racing related events and cruises to attract high-spending visitors who stay overnight.
Those measures that are mentioned in the blueprint will of course be implemented in full steam. But any measure that are not included in the blueprint, it doesn't mean that we do not have them in our mind. We will continue to identify new measures, new possibilities. This report or this blueprint will last for the next 5 years.
The Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism also noted authorities will further adjust its mega event schedule for next year to better determine which events will attract more visitors. The government expects the tourism industry could add value to the economy by $120 billion and provide some 210,000 job opportunities in the next 5 years. As part of the government's development blueprint for Hong Kong's tourism industry 2.0, authorities noted major steps have been made in the promotion of Muslim-friendly tourism. They include the invitation of internationally recognized Islamic organizations to certify halal standards in Hong Kong's hotels and restaurants. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Starting today, residents need to register online before using these services at public dental clinics. Secretary for Health Lo Chung-Mau said the new arrangement is fairer for the elderly. Under the new system, residents can reserve spots for dental clinics for the next day on the website of the Department of Health or the eHealth app. Information required includes names, mobile numbers, and date of birth. People will receive a text message if they obtain an appointment. Some elderly residents arrived at this dental clinic in Tsuen Wan and found out about the new arrangement. Secretary for Health Lo Chung-Mau inspected the clinic. He said the system prevents elderly residents from spending time queuing for dental services. Starting tomorrow, residents will get a voice alert if they receive calls from newly activated local prepaid SIM cards. It's part of the government's drive to prevent suspicious calls. The alert will be provided by mobile service providers free of charge. The Office of the Communications Authority noted it had intercepted more than 4.6 million suspicious calls as of the end of last month. This, as some lawmakers believe, the measure is not enough to tackle the city's scam call problem. Lawmaker William Wong Kam Fai suggested authorities use artificial intelligence to identify methods typically employed by fraudsters to intercept their calls. Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer who became America's 39th president, has died at the age of 100. Carter had been in hospice care for about 22 months. He died at his home in Georgia, where he and his wife, Rosalind, who died at 96 years old in November 2023, had lived most of their lives. Nazvi Karim has more.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear
January 20th, 1977.
Jimmy Carter, a former peanut farmer from rural Plains, Georgia, is sworn in as the 39th President of the United States of America. After defeating Gerald Ford in the 1976 election, Democrat Carter served a single turbulent term in office before losing to Republican Ronald Reagan in 1980. On the foreign policy front, Carter was at the center of some epic breakthroughs that in time established his legacy as a president for peace. Arguably, his greatest achievement was broking the Camp David Accords that brought peace between Israel and Egypt. Carter kept Egyptian President Anwar Sadat and Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin at the bargaining table for 13 days in 1978 until they agreed a deal. And in the midst of the Cold War, he signed the SALT II, or the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, with Soviet Union leader Leonid Brezhnev in Vienna that restricted the deployment of nuclear weapons. However, he pulled it back, imposed trade sanctions and ordered the US boycott of the 1980 Moscow Olympics because of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. His biggest crisis came in 1979 when he admitted the Shah of Iran to the US for medical treatment. The US embassy in Tehran was then overrun by followers of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Negotiations to free 53 US hostages in the embassy broke down, and a failed rescue attempt subsequently resulted in the deaths of 8 servicemen. Talks to finally release the hostages were complete on January 19, 1981, and they were handed over to US personnel the next day, minutes after Reagan was sworn in. Domestically, he deregulated the US airline, railroad and trucking industries and established the Departments of Education and Energy. But double-digit inflation, long lines for petrol and the Iran crisis played a part in his election defeat. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
It was only after leaving the White House that Jimmy Carter started to establish himself as a global humanitarian, which earned him the Nobel Peace Prize. U.S. President Joe Biden paid tribute to his friend of more than 50 years, while President-elect Donald Trump also praised the Georgia native. Carter was the only former U.S. president to explicitly call out Israel over its treatment of Palestinians in his 2006 book, Palestine Peace, Not Apartheid. Nasvi Karim again.
Jimmy Carter, the home builder. Jimmy Carter, devout Christian. Jimmy Carter, the global diplomat. His 4-year presidency provided the launchpad for Carter's post-White House career as a humanitarian, alongside his wife, Rosalind. As the Empire State Building lights up in red, white and blue in honor of Carter, U.S. President Joe Biden said his longtime friend will be given a state funeral.
Today, America and the world, in my view, lost a remarkable leader. He was a statesman and humanitarian. And Jill and I lost a dear friend. Just look at his life, his life's work. He worked to eradicate disease, not just at home, but around the world. He forged peace, advanced civil rights, human rights, promoted free and fair elections around the world. He built housing for the homeless with his own hands. And his compassion and moral clarity lifted people up and changed lives and saved lives all over the globe.
President-elect Donald Trump also paid tribute to Carter, saying he did everything in his power to improve the lives of Americans. In his 2006 book, Palestine Peace, Not Apartheid, Carter said Israel's occupation and building of settlements are the main hurdles to a peace agreement. In an interview in 2007, he said there were powerful political forces that prevent objective analysis of the Israel-Palestinian issue, saying that if any member of Congress did speak out, they would probably not be back in Congress the next term. His humanitarian efforts earned him the ultimate award in 2002, the Nobel Peace Prize, for undertaking peace talks, campaigning for human rights, and his social welfare work. Carter was born on October 1, 1924 in Plains, Georgia. He joined the U.S. Naval Academy and graduated in 1946. After his presidency, he established the Carter Center, a non-governmental organization that helps to improve lives by resolving conflicts, advancing democracy, and preventing diseases. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter also established diplomatic relations with China during his presidency. President Xi Jinping offered his condolences to U.S. President Joe Biden. Mimo Singhai reports.
In January 1979, the U.S.-China relationship entered a new era, a watershed moment when the two countries officially established diplomatic ties. Jimmy Carter and then Vice Premier of China Deng Xiaoping met in Washington, D.C.
I welcome you, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Vice Premier, to the United States of America.
Under Carter, Washington moved to recognize Beijing as the sole legal government of China instead of Taiwan in a major political shift. While Carter did not visit China in his presidency, the former U.S. president went to the country more than 10 times after he left the White House. He met with a number of Chinese leaders during his time there and was seen as an old friend of the country. In 1985, Carter conducted a private visit to Hong Kong. In 2016, he received the Positive Energy Prize under the Loy Ji War Prize.
That's correct, right over here, Mr.
2 years later, Carter did an interview with TVB in Atlanta. He talked about how to bring positive energy to the U.S.-China relationship.
First of all, mutual respect. The United States respect China, acknowledging the great difference in history and culture and so forth, and the form of government, and China respecting the United States, which is quite different from China. And then when we have a problem or a challenge or an obstacle to overcome, we need to address those issues together.
In Beijing on Monday, the Foreign Ministry said China deeply mourns the passing of Carter, who was a promoter and decision-maker in building diplomatic relations between the two countries. Spokesperson Mao Ning said China holds him in high regard for making significant contributions in China-U.S. relations and the friendly exchanges and cooperation between the two countries over the years. Memos 9, TVB News.
Still ahead, an elderly man is killed after a car runs onto the pavement. South Koreans mourn the victims of the fatal plane crash as authorities investigate the cause. Welcome back. A man died and 2 other pedestrians were injured after a car veered onto a pavement in Yaomate on Monday morning. The 42-year-old driver was arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving causing death. Mimo Singai reports.
Moments before the car mounted the pavement, captured by the CCTV camera of a shop on Jordan Road near Shanghai Street, the video shows people crossing the road before a black private car appears and veers onto the pavement, knocking down a passerby. This CCTV shows the incident from another angle, the car directly hitting a few passers-by. The vehicle continued to move forward until bumping into a concrete divider and eventually stopped on the fast lane. A witness to the incident who refused to be filmed said he heard a loud bang when the incident happened. The lamppost fell down. I saw an elderly man on the ground and I wanted to cry, he recalled. The front of the black car was severely damaged. Authorities used car stoppers to prevent the vehicle from moving forward. Objects, including bricks, were scattered across the pavement. A police officer swept the affected area. At least 3 people were injured in the incident and sent to Queen Elizabeth Hospital. 2 of them, both aged 25, are from South Korea and the Philippines. One elderly man was unconscious when sent to hospital and was later pronounced dead. The 42-year-old driver who claimed he was unwell was sent to Guanghua Hospital. Memos 9, TVB News.
A woman died after falling from a building in Chengshawan and landing on a male passerby in his late 20s. The man was unconscious when sent to hospital. The incident happened at around 2:30 p.m. on Wing Hong Street near Kimberlin Center. Bloodstains, a shoe, as well as a trolley could be seen on site. The injured man worked for a logistics company. His colleague said he was delivering packages nearby at the time of the fall. The woman that fell was confirmed dead on site, while the man suffered from head and hand injuries. He was sent to Princess Margaret Hospital for treatment. The Transport Department began issuing enhanced vehicle licenses and simplified relevant application processes starting today. The new licenses do not indicate an expiry date. Vehicle owners can instead check the expiry date by scanning a QR code. This means if the vehicle owner's registration plate number and color of the vehicle remain unchanged, the license can remain in use after each renewal. The UN Secretary General says conflict and climate change have blighted 2024, and in his New Year message for 2025, urged countries to work towards peace and stability. Antonio Guterres says despite what he called a year of wars, division, and inequality, he believes things can get better.
Even in the darkest days, I've seen hope power change. I see hope in activists, young and old, raising their voices for progress. I see hope in the humanitarian heroes overcoming enormous obstacles to support the most vulnerable people. I see hope in developing countries fighting for financial and climate justice. I see hope in the scientists and innovators breaking new ground for humanity.
In South Korea, mourners grieved and laid flowers at a memorial center set up in the city of Muan today after a plane crash that killed 179 people a day earlier. Mourners lit candles at a makeshift shrine. On Sunday, a Jeju Air jetliner skidded off a runway, slammed into a concrete fence, and burst into flames after its landing gear apparently failed to deploy. All but 2 of the 181 people aboard were killed. The plane was arriving from Bangkok, Thailand. Park Han-shin, a bereaved family member and representative for victims' families, spoke to reporters in Muan today. Park asked on behalf of victims' families that the South Korean airline Jeju Air come up with a monetary reparation plan for victims, including children who've lost parents. Azerbaijan's president is in no doubt that Russia shot down the plane that crash-landed in Kazakhstan, killing 38 passengers. Ilham Aliyev says he doesn't believe it was intentional, but the guilty must be brought to justice. David Garrett has more.
8243 came down on Christmas Day in Kazakhstan. It hit the ground, exploding immediately. More than half on board died. Most were from Azerbaijan. 29 survived and reported hearing bangs while airborne, suggesting the plane had been targeted. Footage of the aftermath showed holes in the fuselage, likely caused by shrapnel from Russia's air defense missiles. At first, Moscow-controlled media blamed a gas cylinder. In a Kremlin statement, Vladimir Putin apologized for the tragic incident, but did not say Russia was fully responsible. Putin said his military was repelling Ukrainian drone attacks around Grozny in Chechnya, the original destination of the downed airliner. Aliyev spoke with Putin over the weekend as the investigation continues. His government has suspended most flights to Russia.
A fire broke out at a hotel in a popular tourist area in Bangkok, killing 3 people with several others injured. The incident occurred at the Ember Hotel on Khao San Road, a famous backpacker street in the Thai capital known for its nightlife. The fire erupted on the 5th floor of the 6-story hotel. The flames were eventually contained. The cause of the blaze remains under investigation. 75 people were staying at the hotel at the time of the fire. The 3 people who died were all foreign tourists. 7 people were injured, including 2 Thai nationals and 5 foreigners. Tunneling is complete on the world's longest expressway tunnel between Urumqi and Yuli in northwest China. The Shengli Tunnel passes through the snow-covered Tian Shan Mountains of Xinjiang. The 22-kilometer project will cut the journey time from 3 hours to 20 minutes. The world's longest road tunnel is in Norway and is 25 kilometers long. 3,000 construction workers have taken 4 years to make the two ends meet. This thoroughfare is part of the National Highway 216, which links Urumqi to Korla and will reduce the 7-hour trip by half and is due to open to traffic in October. That is the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.